Hello, folks. Welcome to the HireMyVA Team and Business Building podcast, where we help you to reclaim your freedom through hiring and thriving with virtual assistants without breaking the bank, without breaking the most important bank, which is your bank. And I'm Dave Braun. I'm here with my partner, fantastic business mentor and coach, but more importantly, my good friend, Larry Broughton.
Is that a Freudian slip?
I don't know what it is.
Handsome Dave, it's good to see you. Glad that we're doing this journey together. Hey, we've got a interesting part two of today. So why don't you give us the question? We'll kind of dive into this.
So yeah, this is the like you said, a part two of what we talked about in the previous episode, which the question is, can you explain the HireMyVA success model? And we're going to talk about part two, which is hire.
Let's explain it, David. Let's explain it.
Yeah, are you ready?
I'm ready to explain. So this is actually a three-part series on the HireMyVA success model, because we do things a little differently with HireMyVA than other VA organizations do, because we really want people to find tons of freedom in their life, and they're not going to do that if they keep having a revolving door of hiring VAs over and over again, Dave. And so we take a little time to talk about, let's set the organization and the VA up for success by preparing for them. And then kind of the easy part is the actual hiring part, but we help with that process. And then we help people thrive by making sure that people are onboarded properly, making sure that you got the systems right in your organization. And I say this over and over again because I want to make sure that people understand that the HireMyVA program is not just about getting a VA. It's about, how do I run a successful business? How do I become a better entrepreneur? How do I become a better leader? So in this episode number 84, that we're going to get into here in just a second, we're going to talk about the actual hiring process. In episode number 83, we talked about the prepare portion. If you've not listened to that yet, go listen to that, because we talk about organizational culture. We talk about who's this right for. We talk about requirements. We talk about a bunch of things, but it's not overwhelming. We hit some pretty important elements of our success model. If you want more details on the first part, of course, go to episode number 83. But equally as important is, after you watch this, then go to episode number 85, which we'll be doing next, and that's on the thrive portion. Hey. Once you get somebody on board, how do you make sure that they are successful, right? How do you make sure that they're a long-term team member? All right. As I said earlier, we don't want to have a revolving door of VAs for you, because that's just going to be kind of, that won't be what success really looks like. So Dave, let's kind of dive into this and go over the model. And you're probably going to want to share your screen again, like you did in episode number 83. And let's look at our Venn diagram. And I am such a fan of Venn diagrams.
Yeah, maybe your last name should have been Venn. I'm going to call you Larry Venn.
My middle name, Larry Van Broughton. I kind of like that, actually.
Yeah, there you go. All right. So like Larry said, go back to episode 83 if you haven't listened to that. Do that, because we give you an overview of the whole thing. We're not going to do that now. We're going to bring it all together in the next episode, where we talk about thrive, and then you'll be able to see how it all fits together a little bit better. Yeah. But here we're going to just talk about the hire circle. Okay, so you can see here that once we move to the hire circle, we've got another 4 key elements. Now, there's more elements.
By the way, Dave, let me interject for 1 second. For those who are just listening and not watching this, when he says hire, we're talking about HIRE.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, not HIGHER. Okay.
Yeah.
But hire, yeah.
You're right. You're right.
Yeah. Thank you.
And we probably should explain it a little bit more carefully, that I'm trying to describe it for those who are just listening. So maybe I should describe it a little bit better. So again, we're looking at the diagram that's got 3 concentric circles in a Venn diagram, where all 3 circles overlap with all 3 together, as well as each one individually. Yes. And so we're looking at the one in the lower right-hand corner, if you can envision that in your mind, is the one that's hired, like Larry said, HIRE. The one on the top is prepare. All right, so envision in your mind, we've got prepare, hire, and thrive circles all overlapping with each other in a Venn diagram format. So now that we've done that, let's dive into the hire part of it.
Mm.
All right. So let's start at the bottom. Questions. So obviously, when you're interviewing somebody, you're going to have to ask questions.
Yes.
So the questions and how we guide you to do that is they are in three different categories, right? They what we call behavioral interviewing type of questions, where you ask things like, tell me about a time in your life where you did this. And if you're not familiar with behavioral interviewing, we talk about it a lot in the course, but the idea behind it is that how somebody acts in the future will be how they acted in the past. So if they tell you about a time in their life when they did something, they'll hopefully act that way in the future.
Or have learned from it and not act like that way.
Or learn from it. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. And so if they've done something where, like, if you're asking about failures, okay, what have you done
That's
to
right.
improve or fix or repair or whatever it is? But go ahead, Dave. I'm sorry.
Right.
Yeah.
No, that's good. And then there's more like harder, soft questions. Hard questions might be a skill-based question. A soft question might be something more about, how do you react with when somebody, calls you a dummy, that kind of thing.
More emotionally based.
Emotionally based. Yeah. So we call those like hard versus soft. And then really the next category is specific questions about their CV or their resume that you want to ask. Because ideally, if you asking a specific question about something that they put on their resume, like a project that they did, they should know that the best of anything else. If they don't, then you have to question them. May not be the right person.
Yeah.
So we have a whole bunch of sample questions for you, and the most important ones that will really elicit great responses.
And you'd be surprised at how many quote unquote leaders, managers, and business owners don't prepare for the interview process.
That's right.
They go in and they just wing it. And then they wonder, why is the person that I interviewed not showing up in the format with which I need them? Because you'll find oftentimes that sparks will fly with somebody where you share common personality traits, but that might not be who you need on your team. And so the idea here is to develop these questions before the emotional energy starts to kick in, when you're totally just, hey, this is purely analytical. What are the questions I need to ask to solicit the best from these candidates to help me succeed and get more freedom in my life? You really do have to prepare for this. It doesn't take long. As Dave, you had said, we've got a bunch of sample questions. And all you need to do is go through those, use them right from there, or tweak them. But I have to say that I'm going to give a disclaimer right now. Although this program is really developed for hiring virtual assistants in the Philippines or third world developing countries, where the cost of living is much less, and so you can pay less than you would here in the U.S. We are a global economy, right? Please check with HR people and your state on what are legal questions to ask, because those change, and questions that you can ask in the state of Texas, for instance, you cannot ask in the state of California. So that's my disclaimer to that.
Yep, absolutely. Okay, so that's the question part. Then the next, the second of the four pieces that we have here of the hire circle is search. Obviously, the search has got to happen, right? You put out a search and you put out your position profile or your requirements, and people are going to respond. How do you do that? Because you may get a whole bunch of candidates. How do you filter through those? How do you do it so that you don't have to be spending a whole bunch of time doing that? And so we have a particular process that we guide you through if you're going to be searching on your own, that will help you to filter through people with a minimal amount of your time, so that when the time comes for our third of these four items in the hire, when the time comes for you to interview people, you're only interviewing people that have really gone through basically some screening anyway, without you having to spend a lot of time on it.
Yeah, it's important to have some kind of vetting process in this. Again, we want freedom for you. So it's very unlikely that you're going to be interviewing every candidate that applies for this position.
Yes. Yeah.
Right.
Hopefully not, because if you are.
But the truth is that, though, Dave, I've seen that the more people do this, the better they get at writing their job posting.
True.
The fewer candidates actually apply. And this is one of the things we need to remember. Oftentimes, if you put a job application or a posting out there and you get 200 respondents,
Mhm.
you probably have not written your job posting well enough. Now, don't get me wrong. There are a lot of candidates who just submit. They don't even read what the posting is or what the requirements are. They're just submitting. There's always going to be that, right?
Yep.
But the idea here is to write the job postings in such a way that there's a vetting process that happens before they even submit their application. And then there's the step that Dave is talking about now, prior to interviewing, to screen out even more of those
Right.
candidates that aren't worthy of the interview.
And one thing that we didn't even, I don't know if we talked about it in the previous episode on the prepare module, but we give you several templates for requirements for certain types of job positions that you can start with.
Yeah, no, we did not talk about that. So let's talk about that right now. Yes, it's very important you have position profiles for these positions so that the team member, the virtual assistant, knows what the expectations are or what you're expecting from them, and you can hold them accountable to that position profile as well. And we know, we've been in this business long enough, we've coached enough people. It's very likely that you do not have that now for this position.
Yeah.
So we're providing templates for you to help you get there faster.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, then the third of the four, as we kind of touched on a little bit, but was the interviews. So we have, some interview guidelines, a way to make yourself, have the best interview as possible. We have guidelines to help you to be comfortable. We talk about it. So that how you conduct your interview, asking the right questions, of course, but the way you're doing that, and then the way that you are actually recording that information or writing that information is really, really important, because, if say you do 5 or 6 interviews of somebody, guess what's going to happen? It's sometimes what can happen is they will start blending together if there's not a clear-cut winner. Yeah. So we got you through that process.
Dave, I've seen over the years, this interview process can be where a lot of potential candidates where we lose them. All right. Just like any other skill, interviewing is a skill. If you've not done it a lot, you're not going to be very good at it.
Yes.
Right. Because there are some candidates who just interview really well. But once you've done this for a while, you can start seeing the red flags, the triggers, the question marks. And so we help you through that process by giving you some guidelines and standards of how you ought to be conducting this interview. I've seen this happen when I've sat in on interviews, coaching folks, but also I've heard it from candidate after candidate before, where they go into an interview and the interviewer does more of the talking.
I know.
Than the interviewee. It should not be that way. So we just give you some tips on how to actually draw out all the golden nuggets from the person that you're talking to and vetting to consider bringing into your organization.
Awesome. Okay. So then the fourth of the 4 pieces of this higher circle diagram here is decision, right? So you got to make a decision. We help you through making that decision process. We've got one of the things that we've got is what do we call it? A whatchamacallit? Decision-making, whatchamacallit, something. Matrix.
We didn't know what to call it, so we just came up with a silly name.
And we can't even remember it ourselves either, but it's a way for you to help make a decision where you can hopefully as objectively as possible hire the right person for you. Because
basically a weighted decision-making model.
Yeah. And it works really well when you're having a tough time. One of the things that we make sure we teach and we guide you on is a lot of times you can make that decision based upon how you emotionally feel about somebody, how you connect with them. That is a factor, but it may not be the most important factor. I've heard stories about, and I know Darren Hardy talked about the story where you hire somebody that's like, oh my gosh, they're just like you. And unfortunately, you don't want somebody just like you.
You don't want many me's.
Yeah. And so the decision-making process is important, and we guide you through that as well.
Great.
And then, of course, so now is the time where we talk about, say, the overlap between the prepare and the hire circles in this Venn diagram. Where they intersect, we use this phrase, attract, and hire rock stars. Okay, so the prepare part is where you're attracting. Hire part, obviously, is where you are hiring the rock stars. They go together to do rock stars. You miss one or the other, and then you're not going to get who you really want. Okay.
Yeah. Very likely to be a
And
subpar candidate.
yeah, that's right. And then where hire and thrive cross is what we call the onboarding process, and we'll talk a little bit about that in our next episode.
But it will be very important for you to listen to that next episode, because this onboarding process is really one of the key elements that most people forget about.
Yes.
That will undermine the success of any team member, whether it's a virtual assistant or someone who's working right in your office with you.
Yep. Okay. So that's it on the hire part. Remember, next episode, we'll talk about the thrive part. So I'm going to stop sharing. And now you can see our faces full, which is a good thing or bad thing. It depends on your perspective, right?
Hello.
Okay. Yes. Anything else, Larry, you want to bring up?
No, I think that was really good. I'm looking forward to the thrive part. It's really one of my favorite elements in the success model, because again, our goal here is to help people build successful businesses. A virtual assistant is just one of the elements of helping people gain more freedom in their life, right? And so if we can help those team members thrive, so that you and I and other people who are part of this program gain more economic, social, leisure freedom in their life, that's really success, right?
Yeah, agreed.
Because boy,
100%.
if we miss, Dave, if you miss the prepare and the hire portion and you keep getting those wrong, that could be a full-time job for you for the rest of your life, just trying to hire candidates.
That's right.
So let's get them on board and then set them up for success.
Agreed.
I'm looking forward to the next podcast.
Okay, awesome.
Good.
Well, thank you, folks, for joining us today. Remember, building a team, as we've talked about, it's the way to reclaim your freedom. And we're here to help you with our course and community, and of course, our white glove service, where we'll actually find a rockstar VA for you and actually sit beside you, guide you through some of these intricate and very important pieces of information that we've talked about. Yeah. So, but 3 things we'd love for you to do right now, and you'd really appreciate it. Number 1, subscribe to the podcast if you haven't already done so. Number 2, give us a rating. Leave a comment below the video. If it's on YouTube, give us a thumbs up, but any comment, because it'll help us to get the word out. And then the 3rd thing is go to HireMyVA.com for more information on our course and community and our white glove service. Because remember, even without experience, you'll learn how to prepare for, hire, and thrive with virtual assistants. Larry and I have helped a lot of folks, and we want to keep helping more, and we want to help you as well. We want to help you get freedom. Okay, so just go to HireMyVA.com for more information.
Yeah. Hey, my friends, it's the entrepreneurs, the leaders, the high achiever who are the warriors in our society right now. We are the world changers. Okay. Surround yourself with people who are bolder and brighter than you are. Dig deep, find some courage, and go do something significant today. Okay. God bless you. God keep you. God hold you. All right, my friends, go get them. We'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye, everybody.